Welcome to Know Happiness, a podcast around how we seek, find, and sustain happiness in some of the most unusual places. Today, my guest, Cheryl Cartwright, is an entrepreneur, a medicine woman, Reiki master, and a dear, dear friend. Thank you for joining us today, Cheryl.
Oh, I'm grateful to be here.
We never have a lack of things to discuss. So I'm going to try and be as succinct as I can with my questions here. But let's just start with the question that I ask everyone, which is very grounding. And what does happiness mean to you?
It really is self-love.
So let's just kind of back up and start from the very beginning, because I want people to really understand your story because it's powerful and there's so much to you. You're a very complex, multi-dimensional woman, and I love that about you. So I know you're in recovery. That's clearly how we met.
Yeah.
Tell me what kind of led you to living a life in recovery?
Well, a life of chaos and edge. What really led me there was a spiritual bottom. I no longer could touch any good inside myself. And I was having moments of clarity where I could not unsee what I was seeing about myself. And it wasn't sustainable any longer. And that's what led me into the doors of recovery to quit using drugs and alcohol.
So when you, because I can relate to that feeling, I really of like, and I'll speak for myself, but like looking in the mirror and just not even being able to look myself in the eye, like just a disgust. And that was kind of my bottom, or has been my bottoms historically. Yeah. There hasn't been just one for me.
Yeah, so it was like a year long of moments of clarity of I could no longer, the lie was no longer there. Pretending and acting like, like this was okay. My life was okay. And like I was hip, slick, and cool and had it going on. That was not true. And so I had a whole year of those moments of seeing myself as I really was. And you don't get to unsee that. And I'm grateful for it, but it was, it was frightening. It was gut-wrenching. It hurt.
Painful.
Honestly, drugs and alcohol just quit. They quit working. They were no longer fun.
Right.
It wasn't even the problems with it. It just didn't work.
And when you say didn't work, what do you mean? Like what? Just explain
there was no longer any ease and comfort. There was no fun. There was no party. And I can remember some of the last few times I used, and it was just, it was sadness and loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And like all that was still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, for me, I was trying to escape, these feelings. Like drugs and alcohol gave me this like checked out, like don't have to sit with my own thoughts. And then it became exactly that. That's all I was doing. Yeah. And then it was compounded by the fact that I had probably made more poor decisions under the influence, or said really horrible things to people that I was having to go and do damage control and fix, and it was exhausting. I mean, that's where it was for me. I just got tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired. There's all these little sayings.
Yeah, I can no longer pretend like I have always had love for myself, and that was not there. And there was just the lie. There was no more lies. Yeah, it was just all very transparent. My last drink, I had a very out-of-body experience watching myself slosh my wine everywhere. And I remember setting it down like that was not okay. But I saw how very unattractive it was in a physical sense. But it was just so it was just a very, it was pivotal. It was the last time I drank. And then I had what I consider a spiritual experience, whether it was my guardians or whether it was my higher power. But whatever it was, I woke up the next morning on somebody else's couch. I got a car that's got 2 flat tires somewhere else in the city. And, I'm very hungover and still drunk. There's this sense of knowing that as long as I drink, this day's coming. Mm-hmm. As long as I drink, this day will always come. And then I heard this very quiet voice. Well, you're an alcoholic. You don't have to drink anymore. Mm. And it was like, huh? I remember sitting there, like having this contemplation. I just had this deep knowing that was true. Now, I knew I was an alcoholic. I didn't have a problem with that.
Did you almost wear it as like a badge of honor? Like I can manage my life?
I surrounded myself with other people who drank like I did, who were successful. They paid their bills. They went to work. They semi-quasi, raised their kids.
How well? That's questionable.
Yes. And, yeah. But it was I don't have to drink anymore. And I don't know what, but for whatever that centered in me, and I haven't had a drink since that day.
Yeah, and it's been a long time. Yeah. How many years?
So that was in 98, like November of 98.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because believe me, I was not, the people that knew me from my past, like this girl wasn't getting sober. I had a love affair with alcohol.
Right.
Like a love affair. I had a love affair with the lifestyle.
Just that hard throw down.
Chaos. Yeah. And I loved, I had this idea that like I was a jet setter or something because I traveled a lot. And I did travel a lot. And what I recognized when I got sober, I traveled a lot and went to a lot of cities in their bars.
Right.
I mean, it's just kind of, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Well, when you were talking about how you looked and kind of having this out-of-body experience, I was sitting there thinking, for me, I thought I looked so cool, that I was so glamorous.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Now as I see people who are super intoxicated like I once was, with the lipstick smeared down their face and the slurring and the in your face, and it's like, God, there is nothing glamorous about that at all. No. And yet in it, you do feel that way. It's
Absolutely.
Such a lie.
Oh, yeah. So, alcohol dressed me up, dressed me down, took me out.
Yeah.
Like it was everything. Alcohol was in the middle. It was my primary relationship. So whatever relationships I was having, whether it was with, my kids I only had one child in my drinking. My work, whatever, myself, alcohol was always front and center. It was always in the middle of all my things.
Well, I think about like what my vacations look like now, because that had been a really big reason for me to not want to get sober, was like, well, what are we going to do on vacation? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's funny to me, all the little like boundaries or lines that I would set up for myself. And I don't know if you tried this as well, but like, okay, so I'm only going to drink on vacation. And for a little while that worked, but we were also going on vacation an awful lot, and then it was, okay. Then it turned into, okay, out of the zip code, i.e. could be in Lawrence, could be in, and so the line
so
just,
clever.
Yeah, kept blurring. And it's like, well, now wait a minute. What I swore I wouldn't do again has now become something I'm doing. And so it's like it just became more clear to me that the main reason I was scared to really fully give things up was vacation. And like you said, knowing all the bars, we didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. We absolutely didn't. We would go drink and party. We'd have these nice dinners and great alcohol that was really expensive and get dressed up, only to not really remember the night or feel so hungover the next day that we didn't want to do anything. No adventures could be had because of it. And just feeling like crap, like, is that really how we want a vacation?
Yeah. And that was the lifestyle. So that was the lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I have, people who have these stories have many stories.
Right.
Yeah. Some are comical. Let's say went to New Orleans. Well, I used to go to New Orleans a lot just for a quick getaway. But one time I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do shots. I'm not going to drink anything else, just shots.
Oh.
And well, I've lost all my friends. I lost my purse. I have no money, and I'm gambling with these people I don't know for shots. And it's crazy. Like, yeah. My friends finally find me, and they're just like, "You are out here," and I go, "Thank God you showed up." My luck was running out.
Right. Literally.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that shots were yours, because you hear a lot of people, and it's funny to me now because I'll hear people say, "Oh, well, I only drink beer and wine. I don't drink the hard stuff." I found that. And to me, if you're having to manage and try and control, and I can't drink, at this time, or what, that there's something more to that.
Yeah, I call the drinking games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the whole relationship with alcohol. Like it's a relationship, and it's time consuming, and we put a lot of time into that relationship. And so like when getting sober, it's like I kind of had a lot of time.
Right. Which is funny when people make excuses, myself included, like, "Oh, I don't have time to get to a meeting," or "I don't have time to go meet with someone who shares my struggles," or all these stories that keep me isolated or separate, And if I spend even just a fraction of the amount of time that I spent seeking, using, thinking about, all the things with drugs and alcohol, I've got time.
Yeah. I remember my first sponsor, Sarah, she said, "Well, I've heard your story. And I think that if you put the time you did into drinking and drugging into recovery, I think you'll stay sober and you'll actually recover." And I was like,
Could it be true?
Yeah. So like kind of like those things. And she'd say, I didn't go to the meeting because I was going to be late. And she kind of look at me. She go, "Did you ever like not smoke the joint because there was only a half a joint there?" And I'm like, "No." And she said, "Well, then I think you can go to half a meeting."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so, yeah. I mean, it is so true.
Well, they do say, and I say they, people in recovery, anything you put ahead of your sobriety, you will lose. And I have found that to be true. And so this is a good reminder, this conversation in of itself, a good reminder for me to put a little more attention, time into, working my recovery program. Yeah. So thanks for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. And now it's a lifestyle for me.
Yeah.
That's a lifestyle. And in recovery has given me back a life that, to go out and live.
Right. It's, you never hear people say, "Man, I got sober and my life got so much worse." In
the beginning, it can feel that way.
Sure.
Because first of all, you're feeling, and now maybe, and you're having to discern: are those feelings, are they accurate? Is it truthful? I mean, it's a lot. And so I say this a lot. Getting sober wasn't easy. And there's a guy I used to go to his big book study down in the city, and he used to say this all the time. I don't know if he'd say, "This isn't for any candy asses."
Yeah.
This is tough. Getting sober is tough. It is hard. And but it's so worth it.
Well,
if you think about it, in the end, our life, the using, was hard.
Right. There's nothing easy
really
about
hard,
it either.
And it was really time consuming.
The sneaking, the lying, the hiding, the facades.
Living in this body that is so untruthful.
Well, and I think for people when they first get into recovery, it can feel like it's worse because you're really cleaning up the wreckage of the past.
Yeah.
They talk about being kind of like a cyclone, and whipping through everyone's life with all this chaos. And then you take the drugs and alcohol away and you feel like, wow, life is kind of calm, but everyone else is still reeling from the destructive path that you have, created.
Yeah.
But then, you know, these things start coming up. You hear a lot of people with like legal trouble that they're having to finally go manage, or they're going through divorces because, you know, that was the thing, or they've lost their children, you know, and looking to get them back. So I guess when I say, you know, my life didn't get worse, it meaning down the road.
Well, right. Well, yeah, but it didn't. I mean, you know, even with all that, like, I wasn't going to jail anymore.
Right.
Right. You know, and, you know, I wasn't waking up wondering what happened last night, or, you know, where's my car, or, you know, who is that person?
Yeah. Who am I lying next to?
You know, all that. I mean, so yeah, absolutely. But I was like about 6 months sober, you know, and I still was kind of mad about having, like, why did I have to get sober? And was mad, like, why did I have to do that? You know, hanging on to that, you know, that regret of who I'd become.
Right.
In all that incomprehensible, demoralizing behavior I had. And, you know, there's certain scenarios. And I remember I was up almost 6 months sober, and I realized that all that stuff had to happen exactly how it happened, or I'd still be using, because all that was part of that soul-wrenching spiritual bottom I had. I mean, I don't know how I didn't have a physical bottom, as I know a lot of people that do. I didn't. But that was like, and I then had gratitude. I found that little glimmer of gratitude that stuff's not happening anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, that train has stopped. Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's at the station, and it never has to pull back out again, ever. As long as I keep, you know, going forward in the path I am.
Well, yeah, and you've gotten through some really hard things, losing your parents, you know, like things that a lot of people would use as an excuse to go out and get wasted,
right.
You know, to escape. And I think that says so much about your character, who you are, and how committed you are to this life. And that's just a really great example for me to see that I can't get through these life,
right? Yeah,
you know, on life's terms.
Yeah. So when I went through my divorce, I was 10 years sober, and I had a women's meeting at my house at that time. When I started going through that divorce, when all that started happening, I was in a meeting every day, and I'm 10 years sober, and all I knew was that I needed to maintain my character, and I needed to maintain my emotional sobriety. First, I have, you know, a child at home, a grade schooler at home, and I know myself well. I needed to maintain that emotional sobriety, because I did not want, I didn't want to have to go around cleaning up wreckage because I was, you know, acting out, because it was an intense divorce.
So let's back up, because you said emotional sobriety.
Yeah.
Let's explain that to people listening, what that means. Because obviously there's the physical, remove the alcohol and or drugs sobriety, but there's also another piece to it. Talk about that.
Oh, yeah. So if you think about, before I got sober, first of all, I only really had two emotions that I registered with, which was happy and anger. You know, and I was very comfortable in those. And when I started working with my sponsor, she started introducing these other emotions, these other like emotion words, like sad, ashamed, afraid. I was like, yeah, I don't do that. And she just got us on. She goes, yeah, well, we're going to learn. Mm-hmm. And so I learned how to have emotions, meaning I didn't have to push them off, call them something else, or get angry about them. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did with all those other emotions. I got angry. I'm a outie, not an innie. So I express myself. And I was very versed at expressing myself. And so, like, going to that divorce, I needed to maintain, I wanted to maintain my character.
Yeah, integrity.
My integrity. And, you know, whenever if I'm in your personal space expressing myself, that's not it.
Right. Well, yeah, because there's a lot of people who have a lot of years of sobriety, but they're kind of miserable.
I definitely, I definitely know those people.
Yeah.
I've seen it, and they're great teachers for me also.
Right.
Like,
I don't want that.
I don't want that.
They call it like white knuckling, where that's the people who are not working any kind of program and are just abstaining.
Yeah, and I don't, I've seen people white knuckle it and get sober and then recover. And this is the thing. This is what I had to learn, because at first I was just sober, and that was enough. I wouldn't really work the program, get a sponsor. I wasn't going to do any of that. And then it came to a point in my recovery, because you see, I mean, at 6 months I started smoking pot again. I never drank again. I mean, I'm clear I'm an alcoholic, and I know what happens when I drink, and I was done with that. I smoked pot for like 9 months or something, and then quit, because it became apparent to me that, it's just like anything else for me. Doesn't matter what it is, if it's alcohol or pot or cocaine or, crystal meth or, on a bag of potato chips too for me. But I am an addict and an alcoholic through and through. I can't use any of these things. And so I quit, and then I'm just raw. And I wasn't going to meetings then, because I slowly backed out because I was smoking and
kind of feel guilty.
Well, I didn't feel part of, and I knew it probably really wasn't acceptable. And this is like these honest people. Yeah, it just was, right. That was a train wreck. So I just quit, and I'm raw. I mean, I'm very raw, and I'm in, my husband's not sober. It's crazy. It's chaos. And, one morning we had a normal morning, got in a fight, blah, blah, blah. I saw that I was going to drink. I mean, I knew that I needed relief. I was like I was emotionally and sober, and I was in a lot of pain, and I needed relief. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I hit my knees, and I'd continued to read the big book and all that, which was what exposed me to my recovery on what an alcoholic is. And I continued to pray. I still had a spiritual life, if you will. I saw it. I just walked it through what was going to happen. I'm going to go get on that bar stool. I'm going to meet that next new best friend. And when I drink, I go and do drugs. And I'm never going to go back to any form of 12-step program. And my baby woke up, and I heard, you need to go be with my people. And I kind of, Spirit speaks if in those very quiet moments. Mm-hmm. And I went back to a 12-step program, and I surrendered to that. So it was a second surrender, if you will. My first surrender was to stopping drinking, and my second was to a 12-step program. And actually I was surrendering to the people who had already walked this path. And that's what I needed to do. I needed to recover.
Yeah. Did you feel like at that point you were just kind of, you were desperate to have something to...
I just knew that just being sober was not enough.
Yeah, because that was my next question.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible for people who are truly addicts to not have some kind of spiritual practice program?
That's a good question. And I would say, because if you think about the other side of it, and I'm a true believer in that it's a spiritual malady. Mm-hmm. What they say about alcoholism is it's of the mind, body, and spirit. The answer, the solution would be something of spirit to clear the body and the mind. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I find spirit and people all day long. So, I go to meetings, and I went back to a meeting and then announced that I was getting a sponsor because I didn't trust myself.
Is that when you found the...
Well, and that's when I knew somebody there would keep coming to me and asking me had I did that yet, had I gotten that sponsor yet. I remember, when that gentleman would come walking over towards me, and I go, oh.
Please don't. Invisifield.
And thank God he did. And I knew that. See, I had learned that, in those meetings, that I could depend on those people, mm-hmm. right? And somebody did, and thank God they did. And so, yeah, so then it's when I that second surrender was turning myself over to, other people in a spiritual 12-step program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I have a love affair with 12-step programs. And, I have found that when I think I can, my spiritual program is enough. And even though I'm hanging out, my friendships are all with spiritual people, it's still different because most of them, if not all of them, except for one maybe, are not addicts.
Right.
And they don't have that hamster wheel.
Well, they don't have the understanding.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to know.
Right.
They're really not supposed to know. And this is, what you and I both know about having that disease of alcoholism or drug addiction or both. Oh, it's sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clever. And it lies.
Right.
And so if we're hanging out with people that don't know about it, we become clever, sneaky, and liars.
Yeah, well, and I realize that if I can't be honest about, like, telling my family, "Oh, I'm now drinking, but it's only on vacation and I'm doing really good." If I'm still lying about that, there's a problem.
Yeah, because you're not even true. That's thy own self.
It's a lie.
Thy own self be true.
Yeah.
So have we watched people die to the lie? Absolutely.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I know to myself, I know what that relationship with alcohol was. I know exactly what it was, and I loved it. It was a love affair.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I always drank alcoholically, and I didn't know that.
Right.
I thought everybody drank like that, actually.
Yeah.
I really, really did.
Me too.
And I was probably 18 or 19 before I had any kind of reflection that, what are you all saying?
Right. Well, I could never understand how someone would want to have a drink or two. That seemed like if you can't feel the effects,
well, yeah.
Why are you doing it?
Well, yeah.
It's so beyond my comprehension.
I wanted to raise the roof.
Yeah.
I have a friend that says it the best. She said, I wanted to make a good time better.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm drunk, I'd like a little cocaine because that's going to keep me up and
keep me going
Yeah.
and keep the party moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was never enough. You were like, what's that saying? Chasing the dragon,
Right,
you're always seeking that first initial. I mean, I had a friend from high school who remembers when we were on spring break, and I'm just, drunk as all. And I said, "Oh, I just love the taste of alcohol," and he remembered thinking, "Whoa!" And he's like 25 years sober now,
yeah.
But even he thought, "Oh, that doesn't sound very good." But I mean, I remember middle school writing a note to a friend of mine basically saying, I'm going to try cocaine, seeing it in these mobster movies. And
so the attraction.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was so
absolutely.
cool to me. And it just, it was everything but cool,
Right, yeah.
You don't see people just breaking out cocaine, just at a dinner table, if you're having to hide it.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Yes, it is a life of its own.
Yeah.
It is a life of its own. I mean, I know when I got sober, I used to going back into other people's homes, where I've been, and recognizing, wow, I think I've been in everybody's bathroom here. Not to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and when I was a young person, a teenager, I used to think, how many medicine cabinets did I get into?
Rifle through.
Yeah. And, and I never thought of myself as a bad person. I never thought of myself as a thief. I never thought of myself as a liar. Though it was like two separate lives I lived. I was such a duality. I mean, even with raising my first son, PTA or whatever, PTA mom, room mom, I paid my bills. I showed up for the I did all the stuff, but I was a party girl.
Right.
And, I remember a friend of mine who was an older gentleman who I used to drink with, and he'd say, you're kind of a dichotomy. And oh my God, did I run with that? Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like that was, a badge of pride there,
Well, and I can identify with that. I definitely kind of had a double life.
Mhm.
However, for me, I felt like a piece of shit. The most important piece of shit,
Yeah. Well, and as you think about it, how our lives are really intact. I mean, mine was really, it was until I was in my 30s before I had a moment of clarity when I was 25, and I think 25 is pivotal for all people, alcoholic, not alcoholic, whatever. I think it is pivotal. It is. There's a turning that happens, and so for me, it did. And a few things happened. Like I quit using cocaine at 25, and because it's like we're supposed to be doing something,
Right.
Like we're supposed to be
Just
doing
outgrow
something.
this.
We're not hitting all the bars here. What's going on?
Yeah.
And but then it just kind of moved through that, and it was in my 30s. That was my bottom. It's like I could not get away from the truth about myself.
Mm.
Like, and that's when I say it stopped working, because I no longer could get away from the truth about myself.
Right.
And it just wasn't okay. I've never been suicidal. I've always been homicidal. So,
That's where you and I definitely differ.
Yeah. So
I'm the more internal, until I explode. But for the most part, I just stuff and I stuff and I stuff.
Yeah.
And then it results in,
so
meltdown.
Yeah. So, we all come in different doors, even though we end up in the same middle, right? And I remember Sarah saying to me, some people need to stop feeling their feelings and get busy, move, do something, take some action. And then some people need to stop taking action and sit and feel their feelings.
Yes.
Do you know which one you are? And I needed to sit still.
Yeah.
And feel my feelings, because I was I'll go do, and huge truth in that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the busyness is in and of itself a coping mechanism, or a way.
It's a distractor.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with that. In fact, my family calls me like a hummingbird or the butterfly. I am very conscious of it. I would not say I have arrived by any stretch, but I'm conscious of it, and it's shifting slowly.
But then, see, that energy is still useful.
Yeah.
Because I am a hummingbird.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're doing different things with that.
Right.
With that energy, and it's more.
Yeah, like I pride myself on I get shit done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do. I get shit done. If you ask me to do something, it's done, and it's done 110%.
Yeah.
But I think giving myself permission to be still doesn't equate to laziness.
No.
And somewhere along the way, I learned that my value is based on what I can do for you. And you won't leave me if I make myself indispensable. And I'm always, and irreplaceable.
So those other things you get, I had to learn what my beliefs were.
Mm-hmm.
That's a belief.
Yeah.
And, so I remember, I always reference back to Sarah. She's the biggest part of my foundation. And she says, well, let's get curious and question everything.
Mm.
Is that true? And I'm like, why is it true? And so I had to start, you can't let go of what you don't know.
Yeah.
So if I don't even know what I really believe, why do I believe that? Why does that drive me?
Yeah. Where did it come from?
Yeah. And she said, sometimes she goes, oh, where did it come from? We don't need to, you really need to go there.
Right.
You just know it's there. Is it true? Where it came from, that'll come.
Yeah.
If it's really necessary for your healing, it'll come.
Yeah.
But, so let's do something about it. Because if it's not serving you anymore, what can you do? And so, yeah, that was like, I still use that.
Well, I think that gives us a good place to kind of segue into spirituality and like our spiritual community, because for me, years ago, I was introduced to this healing community that involved plant medicine. And I was terrified that if I was honest about it, that I might be told that that's not sobriety and that I wouldn't be allowed to do it.
Right.
And
and that's accurate. And I think that is I'm not saying it's 100%. What I'm saying is there is truth in that, because there are people that are going to say that.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and then there are people who are not going to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I had been introduced into this community about 7-8 years ago. And it was, offered to me at a place in my life where I was just desperate or not desperate. It just so like a sponge. I wanted
You were seeking.
I was seeking more than just a 12-step program. I was seeking an actual like relationship with spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And this just kind of came at this time in my life where it just felt it was perfect timing. And my only regret around that was not being honest with it and just allowing myself to be uncomfortable with people maybe having a judgment about me.
So interesting, because I do remember this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about, just in human nature, what we do with that. So then we judge.
Right.
Right. And I remember you going through this time, and then I remember you judging.
Yeah.
Well, those people. And I'm like, well, I don't really know about all those people.
Right.
And I remember there was a time not far long ago that, people, some, not all, and this is the whole thing. It's not the whole. It's just a couple people, and it could be just a couple people, and all of a sudden, we've tagged the whole world with it.
Right.
And what I've learned about that is, where else do I do that in my life? I mean, that's kind of a thing, right? But, they did, some people thought that you should not do psychotropic drugs, from the psychiatrist. Some people need those. It's, so why are you, I don't think it's anybody's place to judge. It's such an individual,
Right.
An individual path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, there's some literature that Bill Wilson wrote. And, so he gets sober in 35. And, let's fast forward into the 50s, in the early 60s, when there was a lot of experimenting going on with LSD,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of scientific and medical experimenting. And he happened to be not running with all those people, but he was in that realm.
The periphery.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and he suffered horribly from depression. And even though he never drank again, he did still have the condition of depression, and he always thought it was a spiritual malady.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it, and so, he did experiment.
Yeah.
And it's not talked about, but it is in literature.
Yeah, because he had I believe, an LSD psychedelic experience
Yes.
that really profoundly impacted his life
It did.
for the better.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
And, back in the 50s, they were using LSD in these studies and
Absolutely.
experiments for like marital problems, a whole variety of things. So they're definitely, the proof is in the pudding for me,
Right.
As far as like, and also the intention. What was my intention?
Mm-hmm.
Was my intention to use these medicines, recreationally and for fun, like I did when I was younger?
Mm-hmm.
Or was my intention to use them to seek deep and meaningful healing and answers? And, every time I've ever done a ceremony, it's been the latter.
Right.
And I think because of my history of addiction, I'm super conscious about how often I'm doing it and, what my mindset is when I do it,
Mm-hmm.
Because surprise, surprise, during ceremonies, I seem to need more of the medicine to feel the effects. And so like I still struggle with, is that a mindset thing? Is it really a physical tolerance? You know, because I used to pride myself on being a rhino, you know. Oh, I can drink with the guys. I can go line for line. You know, like I was pretty, I had a big tolerance.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And could still stand, you know, whereas most people would turn the lights off.
I do.
Go
I
to
do
bed.
relate. Well, attaching that to, is that the alcoholic drug addiction coming through?
Yes.
Is that personality? Is it trustworthy?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's kept me, because I worry about, is that the addiction part of me? I also worry, like, is someone going to see that and judge me and say, oh, that's addict behavior?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a variety of things there. And so much so that it kept me from going and ever saying, hey, I'm not really feeling it. I just would sit there alone and just kind of watch everyone else, you know, have these big experiences while I didn't, or mine were very mild in comparison. Right. So that's been an interesting evolution for me here as of lately. And I really try and keep my journeys to about anywhere from 3 to 4 at the most a year. Like it's not, and I think there's a misconception out there for people who don't use plant medicine and are kind of looking at from the outside in, and that it's addictive and that you're going to be doing it all the time. And that has not been the case for me.
Right.
In fact, after a weekend, I'm like, ooh, I don't think I want to do that for a really, really long time, because it's so emotional.
Right.
You know, there's so much that comes to the surface. And then I want to be able to actually have the time to implement all the downloads and insights that I've been given.
Yeah, you have to integrate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like I think about the 12-step program, and there's a couple of the steps. It's really where the rubber meets the road. You got to put some action into that.
Yeah. And
so the integration is, you got to put action into that. You have to, there's a guy that I saw speak once, and I just still love, this was so many years ago, and I still love what he said. And he was from Texas, and I had this Texas, accent. He goes, well, I don't know about many burning bushes, but I've seen a lot of smoking ones. And, they don't burn unless you fan them. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like literally, I think I'm 1 year sober, and I'm like, wow, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I, so the action, well, fanning is an action. And if you fan a smoking bush that's got some fire to it, it will ignite. I'm like, oh yeah. So, I can have all the ahas in the world. You can have all the downloads in the world. But if you don't put any action behind that, it goes away. It just goes away. So, so I was probably like 17 years sober when the idea of plant medicine was introduced to me, right? And I'm Native American. Mm-hmm. So I find it very sacred, and I also know about abusing the sacred. Mm-hmm. Because, I was a little teenager running around saying, like, my people like smoke marijuana, right? Like I'm ceremonial. Mm-hmm. And my uncle said to me once, that's a bunch of bahooey, and you need to stop it. At least stop saying that. And if you really want to understand and learn about it, then come talk to me. Mm. Okay, so so when I first, I'm listening to people, and I'm reading stuff, from medical and science journals about the amazing things that are happening for people who have been stuck in their mental illness. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, and so of course my rebel wants to roll in there, and I want to separate science and spirit, and I see Jung, and what he did was he brought the mystic into the science, and it's beautiful, and so I was really investigating. It was just really, people were talking about it, and I myself in my young years did a lot of hallucinogenics, and many times I would go off on my own path, and my friends would kind of make fun of me because I get really deep. I'm a deep person. I'm not interested in having let's talk about the weather and let's all be surface. I've been deep all my life. I've gone deep all my life.
Me too.
So yeah. I mean, I just had a vision of being around the kitchen table at 3:00 in the morning, cocaine, and having these really deep conversations.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Though I will say I did the same.
So in personality, individually wise, we're deep people. Okay. So I was listening to this podcaster, and had been listening to him for a while, and I've really just love his stuff. I love his content and his guest, and he was sharing his personal experience, and he is also I think he's got a couple years more than I do, and so
Who is it?
It's Luke Story.
Okay.
So I text him and I said, "Hey, I got a question here because I've kind of been on the fence, and I am curious about all things that are that I'm a seeker." I mean, when I saw the experiences that other people were having with EMDR, and I'm like, wow, and I'm telling you, it's pivotal. And I'm like, wow. And I'm thinking, well, I think I'll go try that. And not because I was having any big issues, but just I can share what I saw other people in their experience when I'm, connecting with other people and say, I don't know, maybe that would work for you. Talk to your psychiatrist or, whatever, your counselor, whoever, the person that's trained to do that. But I'm like, I've got to have my own experience. So I went and I was seeing a therapist and went to one that I saw that somebody else had been seeing. And so we did it. And I had an amazing experience. And it brought me back to a time when, and my big question had always been, when did my claircognizance has always been with me. It's never left.
Explain what that is to people.
So your clairsenses, you have, knowing, auditory, sensory, there's smell, and there's visual. And my knowing has been forever intact. But I always we all have them.
Right.
So it's nothing special. It's very special. But it's nothing special. It's not unique. We all have access to this. We all have. And some are just maybe more auditory or more visual. And of course, my greediness hasn't left me. I just want it all. And I want to experience it all. And so, but I'm like, I know, there's this sense that it's been there much livelier and deeper than what I experience it today. And I can recall things when I was a child. And, but in that experience, I'm back at 5 years old in my parents' home. And my parents are arguing, which is pretty normal. But it's not their words that I hear. I can hear what they're thinking and what they're feeling, both of them. And I saw myself throw my hands out and say, stop this. This is too much. And so I got to bring that experience back in and start to tell myself it's not too much. So it's been a great gift. So you don't have to have huge trauma. And some people's trauma isn't like some horrific story that you don't want to tell anybody. This one person that shared their experience, their counselor, her experience was when she was like 3, she went to reach for her father's hand and he took it away. And how she perceived that was rejection.
Yeah.
He didn't even know that she was reaching for him. Right. and she's a counselor. All her young life and to her adult life, she had problems in her relationships. And there was always this deep sense that she was going to be rejected, and she never could figure out where it came from. When she did EMDR, that came through.
Is that not
like, is that not like
insane?
And I mean, yeah, and it wasn't some like horrible bad thing that happened to her. So, it's just like, gosh, let's just open ourselves up.
Yeah. Well, and trauma is so subjective. Like,
Absolutely.
you can have two children in the same family that experience the same parenting essentially and perceive it completely different.
Oh, yeah.
And I just heard something really, really fascinating that I had never thought about with trauma. No matter what it was, they were talking about this little girl who woke up and there was a boy on top of her, and she never told anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And this doctor said to her, the trauma began before that because you didn't tell anyone, which meant you felt alone.
Yeah.
And so that aloneness, then when this event happened, is really what the trauma is like you felt so unsafe and so alone, but yet you could not share that. And you spent your whole life, carrying that.
Yeah.
And that shaped really. And I thought, man, that is so profound because, as a sexual abuse survivor and those things happening, I didn't tell anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was alone, not only physically because my mom worked and I had to watch myself for many, many hours every day before and after school. But then this happens and I'm alone with that. And then I just really, if, you could rewind the clock and realize, be able to go and share that with my mother, who could then say, I'm so sorry that happened.
Right.
And that's terrible. And I want to be here for you. And how can I support you? And, that didn't happen.
Right.
And in many ways, I'm like, thank God it didn't. All that time that I had alone, and has built so much resiliency. Everyone around me laughs like Lindsay's the cat with 9 lives. I can. I'm like the cockroach that just you can't kill me. You try as you might, Lindsay. I just really am very resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think we all are.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of us just don't know it. I was just listening to something about, being connected to our souls, which is really what this whole path has brought me to. Right. And a lot of that resiliency leaves us when we're not. When we don't have enough soul stamina, whether you're physically healing or spiritual healing, emotionally healing. It's just an interesting concept.
Yeah. Spiritual stamina.
Yeah. Soul stamina.
Oh, soul stamina.
Soul stamina.
I like that.
Yeah.
What are some of your daily spiritual practices that you use that really help you keep aligned and balanced?
Well, so I meditate every morning. I journal. I take time for myself. It's really, really important to me. It really does. It balances me for the whole day. If I wake up late and jump out of the bed and just get rolling, I can tell you it can be a little rocky throughout the day.
It's a little dicey.
It can be.
Uh-huh.
And so I can stop anytime and rebalance. But so for me, I get up and I pray, I meditate, I journal. I have that time. I always read something. And, it just grounds me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm, it is like, and so that you had mentioned it earlier, like, oh, we don't allow ourselves to rest or anything. And I can remember early in my journey, like thinking, like, I need, I need to be doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I need just sitting around, and it was like, it was a journey in itself for self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's self-care.
And it's so important. It especially like I've noticed, like as a mother, I have so much energy going out to these kids and staying on top of their needs and what they want, that like replenishing and filling my cup seems to come, or it did, at the bottom of the list of things that get to, you know.
So
And-
that's not, there's no equilibrium there.
No.
There's no equality there.
Right.
Then there's no quality there.
Right.
So you know what they say on the airplanes.
Right.
Put the oxygen mask on yourself first
Yeah.
before you put it on the child. And that is responsible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a responsible act if you're in that situation on the plane. Well, why aren't we doing that on our daily lives,
Right.
which is really a responsible act? It's responsible to self. And then it's, you know, I can't care for my family if I'm not caring for myself.
100%. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
We think we are.
Yeah. And we are responsible for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, each one of us.
Well, and I think for many years it felt like selfish.
No, those were stories that were that we bought.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of like, you know, going to the store. Well, yeah, I'll buy that. Okay, that's true.
Right. Like a book we're reading.
Right. And you know, we get to shift those things.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people want to blame for those old beliefs, those old paradigms, you know, and you can't shift when you're blaming, you know. So really, I just have to take the responsibility for myself. It doesn't matter where I heard it from. It doesn't matter why I believe that. It doesn't matter where I learned it from.
Yeah.
You know, what I know today is that is not true. That doesn't serve. And I need to change that myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the whole, do I really need to know where it came from? You know, I don't know.
And I think that's true. And that it will be revealed if it's pertinent, if it's something that like demands that you may need to take a step back from a relationship.
Yeah, or revisit that. Or maybe it's because it's going to serve you in helping someone else.
Yeah.
That's why it's come through. Because you're going to be able to relate with somebody who's struggling and doesn't have their solution yet.
So what would you say to someone who, you know, is in this contemplation phase of, am I an addict or an alcoholic? And, you know, what is one piece of advice, you know, that you wished you'd have been given right away, or that you wish you would have gotten right out of the gate that would help someone?
The thing is, I probably got all that stuff and I couldn't hear it. Really. You know, I don't know what gets people to wake up to themselves. They know, but for me, it had to start with honesty. And like I said, those moments of clarity for a year of me seeing myself and kind of see what I've seen. And like, it's just there. It's questioning all those beliefs. I mean, how many people think, oh, I'm different, or, oh, there's not help for me, or, you know, that isolation. I mean, I know this, you know, I had to do things I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
I had to do things I didn't want to do. I had to do things that didn't make sense to me. I had to be willing to do all that.
Yeah, because sobriety often is not about doing the things you want to do, and more about what you need.
We were doing that forever.
Right.
I mean, we had a whole life of that.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I remember thinking when I first started working with you, I was like, I don't care if she tells me to go stand on my head in the moonlight on a full moon, I will do it because I'm desperate enough to stay sober. So being open and that willingness to take suggestions, even if you don't want to, because, hey, guess what? The way you wanted things wasn't working out.
Right.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
So.
And it is. I mean, you know, I mean, for me, I had to trust I had to be willing to follow direction. I had to be willing to be a part of. I mean, literally, I was like, I can read and I have a higher power. So that's what, you know, I don't need those people.
Right.
And, you know, I went through a lifetime of being self-reliant until I needed to not be self-reliant anymore. And that doesn't mean that I don't rely on myself.
Yeah.
But,
that we're weak.
Yeah. Or that, yeah. And, you know, so, relying on people was scary to me. And yeah, so I get to revisit that. That comes from my childhood. That doesn't mean my family didn't love me or anything else like that. I decided at a very young age, I'll take care of me. A very young age.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
Yeah. I mean, my grandmother said to me once, I was like 5 or 6, and she said, you think you're smarter than them. And I said, I am. It started early.
Yes, I would say so. My parents would probably say the same about me.
Yeah. So,
Really?
and who's to know? I get to be of service to a lot of, people who are coming through this path.
Yeah.
And, thank God Sarah was there when I got sober. She was like 20 years sober when she started sponsoring me. And thank God she was there.
Yeah.
And, so people say, why do you still go to those meetings? And, first I have a debt full of gratitude. And because she was there. Mm-hmm. And God, I needed her to be there.
Yeah, because it's so important for the newcomer and for people who are, because walking into that first meeting is terrifying. Yeah. And it can be so overwhelming. But to hear women or human beings that have gone before and who are still standing there saying it works. Yeah. Like, here's how I did it. It's invaluable. And it's so necessary to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me.
It's the soul connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Like, I know you've got some kind of unique ideas of what's the next half of Cheryl's life going to look like, you think?
So I am preparing to launch Authentic Endeavors, which is, so I don't like to put labels on myself, but I use a few modalities and it's just, how do I serve? I'm definitely a shadow worker. Okay, I've been to the dark. I have found the light, and I'm not afraid of the dark. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's kind of like I don't want to say it's a tour guide because it can be kind of rocky.
Still could be a tour.
It's still a tour.
Yeah.
And I just share, the things I've done. I share my spirituality. So I've practiced under a few people. I've done a shamanic apprenticeship, which of course that was another journey because I am Native American and you don't get to call yourself a shaman that is initiated. And then I started listening to Alberto Villalobos, and he explained how he ended up being initiated. And I was like, oh, the whole world we need a healing. Mm-hmm. And, so there's a tagline for my other business, which is, we beautify Kansas City one tree at a time. And, we're going to heal this world one person at a time, one soul at a time. Mm-hmm. So I just work with other people who are interested in a journey into the inner landscape of themselves. And I just kind of track along with them.
Well, it's cool because it's clearly your dharma, because I remember just thinking here recently, like, man, how does she do it? Because you have so many women that you sponsor and that you get to meeting. I mean, you've got a lot going out. How do you get that reciprocity? Like, where does that?
When you see people's light come on. I mean, so this is when I have I said, okay, Spirit, I'll take care of your business. You take care of mine, mm-hmm. And that's, so I don't know, people say, how many people do you sponsor? I don't have a clue. I don't keep track. Okay. I didn't count my money when I was at the gambling table. I still don't count.
Right.
and I just trust that, I just trust that Spirit will guide me.
Well, you also give as much as the person that's
absolutely. I mean,
if I'm calling you, you're gonna.
So this is the thing. I don't heal anyone. They do the work. I don't. I just show up with them. Mm-hmm. That's it. So if you're doing the work, you're the one doing the work. I am showing up. I'm sitting in the space with you, but it's your work, not mine.
Right.
I am just really a guide.
Yeah. You're not harassing anyone. No,
and I ask, Spirit, just works. I ask for the grace of Spirit to work through me to you. So it doesn't even take a lot of my energy.
Well, you do it beautifully.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I value you and your mentorship, your friendship. It's been really lovely to get it all captured. I told you it'd be easy. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for, I mean, I've known you for 20 years probably, or pretty darn close. And I appreciate you.
Yeah, it has been, I always say it's a wild ride, Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And until next time, be kind to yourself, listen inward, and follow what lights you up.